2, 1. On, Jose. Thank
you?
you. Everyone, come on. Keep that sheet flowing. Our blue screen is comfortably closed. We're going to strip in Sylvan, New England here too. Jose, let's talk. This is a fun part of the class for me. It's on grant writing, and I consider grant writing a hunt. You know, it's like, and the more rejection I get, the more I smell blood. You know, more I'm out there trying to find the right grant. What if you're a graduate student in the sculpture, or what's your medium?
Sculpture, installation work. Mostly.
Installation work.
Yes.
What have you heard about the jungle being? Do you find a gallerist? Do you write grants? Do you go to Yaddo? Do you go to MacDowell? Do you get the Rome Prize? Do you do? What's the shoulds that you heard about being a young artist?
Struggle. You know, here they don't, like you said, these people, they don't really teach you much about the hunt.
The hunt. So
yeah,
instead of struggling like an herbivore with blunt teeth, we gotta thrive like a carnivore in that big jungle of life. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you write about a grant proposal as an artist? How would you use that grant proposal to kind of get a cool gallerist, or at least get attention? What's kind of going from an herbivore in the jungles to a carnivore up the food chain? What would you do now that you've explored grants?
I would try to make myself as marketable as possible in different areas. So let's say I already had one piece of art that I had.
What could you describe in words what your ilk is?
Well, right now, I guess I'll give a plug for my show, which is coming March 3rd in the Alloway Gallery, which is in the library here at Stony Brook.
It's a good little space, that square space. It is. Right. So, you're going to take the whole space over?
Yes, the whole little
very cool
room. And so it's from 7 to 9, so you're all invited.
YouTube, 7 to 9, what date?
March 3rd, Thursday.
March 3rd, Thursday. Be there. Free red wine, stuff like that. No.
Undergrads.
Okay. It's undergrad.
Yeah.
God.
I know.
Okay, anyway, what poking around in the cost machine, let me give another plug because I love this site, www.cos.com, community of scholars, $30 billion. Back in my day, Jose, don't want to say how really old I am, I used to do all this stuff by paper.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you can just plug in some numbers, you get the amount, you get
Sure.
who. What have you found so far?
Well, so the way I started my search was do what you know first, right? So
cool.
You put in things like artist or
the keywords, right?
Keywords, and then you start realizing that things there's certain requirements. Like you have to live in a certain state, or you have to be of a certain ethnicity, or this or that. And so it starts. Your options become smaller. So then you realize that you have to adapt what you already know, what you have.
Shapeshift.
Yes, exactly. Be a chameleon.
With teeth.
And take certain liberties in how you form.
This is an important point. I do this often. Like if I encounter a Canadian or Australian grant, I'll get a hold of my Canadian or Australian friends and say, I know you don't have a copious amount of time. Listen up here, FaceTime. You don't have a copious amount of time. What if I write this grant, you put me on it, and I'll be your Yankee gringo from the States on this particular grant in England, Canada, Australia, and so forth. Could you, do you speak Spanish?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Sí.
Did you find anything about Spanish-speaking Latin America, any residencies or grants there?
I haven't looked into Latin America, although that would be a good obvious choice. But I have been looking into.
There are a couple of great art colonies, and gang, art colonies for the undergraduates are these really wonderful places where you go to get away for a month and just do your work. They feed you, they sleep you. They're usually in a beautiful setting. The thing I wanted to plug, there are 2 or 3 art colonies on the coast of Brazil. That could be a nice place to go. And by the time you come back, these places are prestigious. You have to have a bunch of these on your resume. Said I went to MacDowell, I went to Yaddo, I went to all the usual places.
Oh, sure.
Just for the careerist aspect to the.
If you want to get a teaching job, like it doesn't matter like that you've taught. It matters what's on your resume. Like if you have these residencies, if you've shown in galleries, it's funny how the teaching is almost secondary to getting a teaching job.
Yeah,
so
because institutions want to know that you're active, and this is what I don't know if your other professors are telling you this, or your parents are telling you this. And this is why we have the midterm at Mark Morris Center, March 19th, performance in interactive media workshop, plug, and May 13th at the Tank, another plug, that these things scream off the resume. You've heard it, you've also felt it, right? That to have your resume filled with these venues is imperative.
Let's hope, right?
No,
It
believe me, it
It will
is.
be.
This is only my day job here at beautiful Stony Brook. So the rest, I'm lurking around in the jungle of whatever out there. Jose, let's leave this open for people. Sayori, what did you find with the grants of like what you know? I just sort of rode you out in the middle of the lake and I said, okay, now swim. You know, I pushed you all overboard and said, here's your Cossite, swim. You said, Professor, that's not the way it's done. It's like, yeah, that's the way it's done. So what did you find?
I was looking at grants for a lot of like interactive technologies. I think so I'm interested in that aspect where it's not just. I feel like today movies got to a point where it's kind of almost hitting a threshold. Movies are going into like 3D realm now.
Yeah.
I feel like the next movement from that is to become more interactive.
Good impulse. Great impulse. And let me coach Sayori. I say, that's a great impulse. The new. The old are sacred cows being taken care of by the Pew Memorial Trust and the Rockefeller Foundation. And you're going to be fighting with all these sacred cows that are getting this revolving funding anyway. And that makes you get cynical and say, oh God, how can I compete? But the new, Sayori hit it on the head, is this discussion is like, oh, I noticed this about society. And what she's saying is like, I want to augment it or fix it or be a part of it or explore these. So her actual grant is sounding a lot like a research grant, saying, let me explore the dimensions of interactive cinema. How people approach it, what are the forms we're actually doing, what's an attention span. It's in a sense you artists are becoming like a scientist. You're saying, I noticed this about what's out there and I want to prove it or disprove it. And you go about that. Anyone else? Raise your hand. Annika.
I just put in some rather generic terms like theater and humanities and stuff. Because I just wanted to get in there and just start seeing, and then things started cropping up, and I went, Shakespeare, now that's cool. Maybe I'll follow Shakespeare for a while and see what's Shakespeare. And then just kept finding keywords once I got in there that piqued my interest.
This is incredible. Listen up here, gang. Don't multitask. Monotask. There's a great essay by Vannevar Bush in 1945, right at the end of the war, where he's actually explaining hypertext. He says, wouldn't it be cool if there's this machine that you jump into a pool of information like a library, but it's not a library, and you go where your whims take you, but everywhere you go there's a linkage that spreads out from that, and by the time you're done with your research, you've gathered all this information like a bumblebee, and you've become part of it. And even before the computer, he was explaining hypertext. Almost everything he wrote in that essay, I just read it. You probably read the essay. It's an amazing essay. Say, this dude was on it, man. 50, 60 years before we even experienced that.
Holography was invented in like 47 by Dennis Gabor. I mean,
47. The television was out in the late 20s.
I know, isn't this amazing? This cult, anyway, whatever.
Well, electric car. We're suffering not having that electric car around now that we invented way back to 120 years ago. This is incredible. Jose, what else about... so now I got for a YouTube audience, I got a whole room of people I got to coach out of, hopefully not out of Zombieland, and in this area of like, do you smell the blood? Do you see the trail? Do you know what sort of energy? Can you detect a blind alley? I can't and what Sarah did was totally correct. It's like, I noticed something about society or culture. A lot of my young people have been so poisoned by this commodity culture, they don't even know what a public culture is. And here's my point for YouTube. This is supposedly free money. This is free money. This is public money. Yes, you heard the things. It is drying up in this country. But China, Brazil, other countries are doing a lot of research on a lot of things. They want to do it. That's actually 1/3 of the mission statement of this university is actually to get federal and other money. So working. Have you ever thought of writing a grant for like a famous artist or another professor, just saying, "Here, I want to work my chops on this."
Uh-huh. Oh,
Have you-
so you're saying working with another professor?
Yeah, or
to get-
collaborators,
I see.
or.
Uh-huh.
I mean, okay, just briefly talk about the paradigm of because I think it's a disappearing paradigm, maybe for good reasons,
Sure.
that the lone individual artist with a singular vision is actually going away.
Well, I've started working with other artists in building collectives, and then taking those shows and traveling them. So the grants would be kind of great in travel alone, or even getting different venues to show this different work at. But it's all about networking, and so when you have a group, when it's not just yourself, you grow as a force. And
I like
you
it,
also
but Jose,
grow
I'm gonna.
individually.
When you did your film on abandonment, I've assigned this film on the Bug Out film and the Abandoned. Jose did a great film about using the space where graduate students have been creating for maybe 30 years, right?
Right.
And he poked around up in the rafters. I would just want to go back to a point and debate this point with you.
Sure.
Collaborators, you said networking with her. What was interesting to me about that film is that you were going with this woman and she was carrying your camera and poking ahead of you and going behind you, and it was kind of a collaborative piece, right?
Certainly, yeah.
How are collaborators ends in themselves and not just means to ends for like work or further connections?
How are collaborators? So how?
Even collaborating with a rich person
I see.
who says, "I'm a stockbroker, Jose, but I dig your scene. Can I be part of your show?"
So he's a part of. He's my partner now. He's
Yeah.
not just the
But he's
cash
a
cow
broker.
that's
He
funding. I
says,
see.
"Yeah, he says I made a lot of cash. I
Mhm.
want to do good to the world. I dig your stuff. I want to." It's taking the charity out of like patronizing
Right.
artists. The way that the
Exactly.
Medici actually did this. They said, "Oh, Michelangelo, he was a rich kid, but Da Vinci was a bastard. He was a poor kid, shuttled around between parents. And nowadays we'd put him in child therapy, and there he would die. But he was a cool artist. He had a vision. He put him in Verrocchio's studio, and then Lorenzo or Cosimo said, "Hey, kid, you got talent. Can I be a part of this?"
Right.
And the Medici were an active part. Do you think you could find that level of patronage now?
I believe you can actually. There's certainly lots of people who would love to be partners, patrons, or partners, however you want to call them, with especially young, emerging artists who they want to see them, give them an opportunity to grow and shine, and then feel like they were a part of that effort, not only in their professional development, but also in the work that they produce. As a
Right.
result.
Let me go just last take around the room. Samantha,
Yes.
what did you find out there?
I found a grant yesterday, last night, that I was gonna, go ahead and write I'm gonna use my abandonment film. It's for depression in teens and youth, and
Perfect.
basically
Love it.
show teens and youth that they're not alone, so they know that they have a problem and they can get help. There's a lot of people that they are depressed and they don't know it.
Very worthy, very worthy.
Yeah.
Very cool, and very, very open for artists to actually make. For YouTube audience, as Samantha was talking about alienation, I would spin that for you and say, "Dear sir or madam, this is an introductory introductory letter. I'm inquiring about your grant for $5,000 to do a film that incorporates and studies the effect of alienation in American youth. I am using the medium of the camera, narrative, storytelling, breakout sessions, collaborative work to provide stories, but also ask them to elicit information on aspects of alienation in their society. We feel this project is timely and worthwhile, and we would very much enjoy your patronage. Thank you, Samantha. Please give me $5,000. Stuff like that. There we go. So let's thank Jose here. And this is the way we're going to spin it for the rest of the class, actually tailoring everyone's ideas and expectations of what they do. Thanks, Jose.